Make sure I'm on your page so I can share it.
Okay, how's everyone out there doing? This is Amy Hamilton, author of The Project Manager Life is a Project, as well as The Consummate Communicator Character Traits of True Professionals. I am so excited. We are doing our marathon event today. 24 authors in 12 hours. And I am here with Michael Faber. Michael Faber is a life coach. He teaches a philosophy of how you can take control of your life, how you can take things that others may consider as adversity and turn it into something positive. And Coach Michael Faber has a very unique perspectives and views. He is obviously, as you can tell, not that guy in that corporate suit coming in here with his tie. He's keeping it real. And so, Michael Faber, I would like to welcome you here to do our show today. And right now, Coach Michael Faber.
How are you? Thanks for having me. And you're right, I'm not in the suit.
So not in a suit. First of all, I'd like to hear a little bit about your book, and if you could share with the audience what inspired your book and what they can get out of reading it.
So this is going to be a little unorthodox. Looks like I'm not in a suit. My story is a little different than most. Right?
I don't think we're expecting anything mainstream from you right now, right?
And
for our audience out there right now, it is January 20th. It is Inauguration Day in the United States of America, and this is an international book festival. If you want to tune into something really not even closely related, this is definitely the show for you. So tell us a little bit about your book, Michael.
So the book, Your Story, You Have Every Reason to Quit But Don't, was written because of a dare, right? Because of a bet. I took a bet because I do not like talking about me much. Right? I would rather talk about you.
You agreed to be on a show to be interviewed because you don't want to talk.
Right. I don't like talking about me. Oh, I love to talk. I don't love to talk about me. I'll talk about anything else. So I would rather talk about the other people, right? Like the other person. I'd rather get to know you, your story. How can I be of service? How can we get a mind shift? Anything like that. All right. So I was really engrossed in that, but people were like, why would anyone listen to you if they don't know anything about you? Right? Like, how can they connect with you to want to speak truth to you? So it was, and if you knew me through school, you would not think I'd be an author, right? I think I failed English like 3 times in 4 years in high school. I'd take it every summer. And I graduated high school by my buddy writing me a theology report to be able to get a passing grade in order to get out of high school. So that's how much I was not into school. But they were like, yeah, sure. How about you write a book then if you really care? I was just like, well, the story to get to me is make a bet, right? So I do really care. So I was like, all right, I'll write a book, but here's the deal. I'm not going to write a book like every other book out there. No offense to any other book. I'm going to write it differently. All right. A lot of people set out and they're like, I'm going to write the greatest book ever written, right? Or I'm going to write the greatest idea of this or this strategy or this thing, right? And I sought out to write the most interactive book ever because I didn't want it to be about me, right? Because I don't like things to be about me. So I would write in Your Story, You Have Every Reason to Quit But Don't, there's parts and then there's pages with lines on it for you to write your piece. And at the end of the book, I tell you, take all those pages out that you wrote on and put it together. And then you have your story. And of course, you went through a million things and probably some really hard times, some times that probably knocked you on your butt, left you there. But that's more reason not to quit. Like, you don't need inspiration from others. You can get inspiration and motivation from your own life. And that's really what I wanted to show in the purpose of the book, was that we all have our own journey, and that's our superpower. That's our strength.
I think that there's so much to that. And I love that it's a workbook concept. I think a lot of people do a companion workbook, but your book is actually incorporated where it's a workbook, it's a story, and it gives people the ability to own those adversities and things that have happened in their life that might not be a positive, but that if they harness and they channel and they realize what they've overcome, that they can really have a game changer.
Right? Like, your life is so powerful. Your life is your superpower, right? Because you're the only one that experienced the way you experienced, feeling what you're feeling when you experienced it, going through what you went through when you went through it. You're the only one that did that. No one else has that. That's your advantage on every single person. Like, that's your unique, right? And if we all just, rather than let that hold us back, because for so long I let my story hold me back. Like, I was a bad student. I got in trouble when I was younger, right? Like I let all those stories hold me back. Like you can't do this because of this, rather than you can do this because of this. And just that changed my whole life and my future, and then for my family as well. And it can do it for anyone, because if anyone can, everyone can.
I think that's really great. You're sharing this. It's a global community, and no matter where it is that you happen to be, no matter your circumstance in life, when you own your life, you can change your life.
100%.
So talk to me a little bit about, once somebody's gone through your book and now they have your story, what do they do with that? And then how can they share it, connect it to you or to other people?
All right. So one, when you know your story and truly own it. So after you know your story and you see it, you got to own it. Right? Like I have to own my story, right? Like my life, true power and freedom comes from owning your stuff. It's not the control of this person, that thing, this thing. It's me, right? So all the bad things I did, that was me, and all the great things I did, that was me, right? And that's the fires that I had to be forged by to get to this point. And I could have let them destroy me. I could have used them as a crutch to live life. As I always say, like I lived my life in segments of movie characters. My first 20 years, I was the villain of my story. And the next 10 years, I was the damsel in distress waiting to be saved. I needed my hero. And then after that, I figured out I had to be my hero, just like you have to be your hero, right? And we can guide people to those ports. We can help that way, but you have to own that thing. So after you really see your story and you really put it out there, start owning it. And one of the proofs of owning it is doing these interviews, right? Going on podcasts. Making your own videos, making your own posts, right? Making your own blog, whatever it is that you really like to do. For the writers out there, maybe it's a blog, maybe it's write your own book, right? It's all these different ways that you can own your voice, because when you do, you inspire others to do the same. And then when everyone's living that type of life, think about the vibration, the energy level of everything, but also how far we push the flag further for the next. Like my daughter saved my life and became my life. I was 20 years old and found out I was having a daughter, and literally she made me change my whole life. And then later in my life, when I kind of fell apart, she saved me again, not even knowingly, just because she was there, right? And I want her to know that, and everything I do is to push the flag further for her generation then to have an advantage and be able to push it further.
I think you share something really important there, Michael, and I kind of want to pull that thread, is how we're all interconnected. And your daughter, I'm not sure how old she is now, but obviously, the fact that just the concept of her being born changed your life. The network we have, the people whose lives that we touch, how every life impacts other life. Can you share on that a little bit? Your thoughts?
I love that. The ripple effect is real, right? Think about how just going into a store, someone's smile or someone holding a door for you can just lift your day up, right? That little sign, that little thing. And if we think those little things can change our day, even for a moment, how much about the bigger things, right? Of actually listening to someone's story, of actually being there for someone, actually just reaching out and saying, hey, I was thinking about you today. Hope all's well, rather than just thinking about that person and not mentioning it, right? Go ahead.
No, it's great. Vanessa Raymond, I don't know if you heard her earlier. She just told the greatest story about a little interconnection that she had like that, and how, you touch people's lives and you don't know it. You don't know those little words. Another thing I wanted to touch on that you said, and it's kind of a catchphrase of mine, and I felt that it resonated, is this, you get better or you get bitter. And it sounds like for a while there in your story, you were heading down that bitter path. You were heading down that path where you let those things accumulate in your life. You let those baggage just like weigh you down. And then eventually you get to the point where you're like, oh, and it's going to weigh you down and break you, but it didn't break you. How did you break through that? How did you go from bitter to better?
It's funny. First, you have to make a choice, right? Right. It's like, I always say the universe, God, whatever you want to call it, it'll send you signs, right? First, it's like a whisper, hey, right? And it gets louder and louder and louder and louder until you pay attention. Unfortunately, I made it scream my face as loud as possible. And right, it's like everybody's rock. That's why when people talk about rock bottom isn't a set destination. Rock bottom is where you create, right? Where you say, I'm not going below this. This is it, right? And unfortunately, my rock bottom was way down, right? I was in trouble. I was in and out of court. I was in and out of, from juvie to adult, right? Literally at 20 years old, I found out I was having a daughter. I got shot at and I beat my last case I ever received, right? And that was all in the same like week. So it was an intense week. right? And I figured at that point it was time to change my life. But it was because of all those different things. That was universe saying, or God, whatever you call it. That's not my debate today. It was just saying, right? Like, pay attention. You're ruining this gift, and this gift is life, right? And my whole dream is to end suicide. Right? Like, that's my dream. And everything I do is set out to do that, right? My brother's one of the 22-year-a-day that took his own life. I'm serving the country. 2011, one of my best friends took his own life. And it was like, there's so much to live for. And we all have gifts, and our gifts are meant to be given. And the fire we get forged by is to show us our gifts. So then we can master those things and then be able to help others with those things, right? And inspire others to show their gifts and give them away. And so that's the journey of us.
A lot of times people feel, and, I mean, if you look at my resume, it's got like all kinds of little letters and numbers and identifiers after it. But you really represent, like, you don't have to do that. You can take a different path. What's your advice to people who say, you know what, but I don't have a degree, but I don't have like these certifications, I don't have all these fancy things?
Right. I say the letters didn't make you anything. Right? Because here, even with the letters next to your name, because you have a lot of them, right? At one point, I thought it was the alphabet. If you didn't live up to the standard in which was set by having those letters, you wouldn't have them, right? So my thing is, if the letters are there or not, set the standard of your life, right? I was that punk guy, and then and then for 10 years, I was the biggest fraud on earth. I was like the fakest dude that ever existed. And that all came crumbling down. My reality came crumbling and made me check myself. And the biggest certification is this: did anyone breathe easier because you existed? And the answer is no, you have no certification. The answer is yes, you got one, right? And my thing is, like, find what makes your heart leap, find what makes this thing beat at a higher level, and then go all into that area. And along the way, you're going to find your certifications and your letters and all that good stuff. And really, it's just how you use it.
I think that's an important message. Tying back to what you said about people committing suicide, which you can tell it's too close to me. It's too close to many people, where we've lost people to that. And when you think about it, people are getting their justification from external means, but your book gives people the power to justify their lives by the internal means. Is this was this intentional, or how did this come about?
This was because for so long in my life, I was the person on the exterior, right? I wanted everyone to know I made it, right? To know I belong, see where I'm at, right? It was that competition mode, right? And listen, I had the big house, I had the fancy cars, right? Like, I wore velour suits. It was horrible. That's why I don't really wear suits much anymore, right? And no one made fun of me or told me. Well, I mean, they probably made fun of me, but at least they didn't tell me. And I'm like, what kind of friends I had that no one told me I looked ridiculous, right? Wearing velour suits every day with matching Timberlands and a Kango hat, right? So I kind of knocked that off and was just like, all of that looked amazing on the outside, kind of. And then, but the inside, I was still broken, right? I was still hurt, right? So it didn't matter the exterior. We've seen people, like we talked about suicide, we've seen people that had everything commit suicide, that had successful businesses, that were millionaires, multimillionaires, right? That took their own life. So clearly money and possessions don't find fulfillment. So I think if we're asking the right questions and seeking the right answers for fulfillment, what makes us inside full, right? So impacting, like speaking with you today here, thank you for this honor, because this is something that makes me feel fulfilled, because it's the chance we can impact someone, the chance we can change someone's life, that we can speak truth into someone and they can see another direction and take that choice, right? And that's what it's all about. And when you make your life about others, the exterior stuff doesn't really matter much, because the stuff you feel on the inside is so much better.
Oh my gosh. Michael, I can't believe how quickly this is going by. I'm absolutely humbled by your philosophies, your theories, and so many of them resonate with the other authors that I've been talking to on this, sharing the positivity, working on yourself, recognizing your own life. For those of you out there in the audience, today is January 20th, in case you're listening on a later recording. My books are available for download free on Amazon.com. You can get them on your Kindle. That's The Consummate Communicator, Character Traits of True Professionals, and The Project Manager, Life is a Project. And I wanted to connect that back with you is, One of the things about the project manager that I felt was really important when I wrote it was about like every life has a beginning and every life has an ending. And then it's like what you're doing in between that matters. And as I'm listening to you share your story, it just really resonates to me that, you know, life is such a precious gift and time is our most precious gift. If somebody goes right now to coach MikeFaber.com, what are they going to find? And you know, how can this help them if they are in a place where maybe they're in a dark place and they want to find something a bit brighter, a bit lighter?
Right, you're going to find a website that hasn't been updated in like 2 years. But it's just I just stopped doing it. I just started. I said I'm going to stop waiting for people to come find me, and I'm going to go find them. And then I became totally against my website and became totally for outreach. One thing you have to know about me: my number and my email are public everywhere. Right, they're on my site, they're on my social media platforms, right? Like you can literally call me now, right? Because when we say we're really about this, we have to prove it. Because just saying we are is not enough. All right, for so long I said I was about all the right things, really did nothing for them, didn't help them at all, and probably hindered them. So after that, I was like, never again. I'm going to make sure I'm going to be on the offense for this. All right. And if we know a lot about suicide or things of that nature, self-injurious behavior, it takes like 3 things, right? Isolation, you need to feel like you're alone, right? A burden, you need to feel like because of you, the people you care about are hurt, right? Or you're weighing them down. And the third is the ability to harm yourself beyond repair. That's the hardest one because we're programmed not to let that happen. But the last one I can't do anything about, but the first 2 I can. Right. So we created a community where everybody's connected, and you know you're connected to something deeper than just self or just the material things or just the surface level connections. Right. Like we like the same team or we have the same purse. Right. That's surface level stuff. Great. It's something, but it's not what we need. We need deeper level connections. So we have a community full of people that want to connect, that are really root for one another, that really support one another and really check on one another, which is extremely important in the situation. Right. And we have avenues to connect with people. We have our numbers out there. We have our emails out there. You can text me, call me anytime of the day, email me, probably the third best. You could reach out to me on social media as well. I check all my social media feeds. No one does that for me. So definitely reach out. Number one thing, connect. All right. The answer is always no if you don't try. The power of the ask, right? Because if neither of us ever asked anything, we wouldn't be here right now doing this. So the power of the ask, be willing to ask, be willing to reach out. It takes real strength and courage, I know, but it's worth it.
I think that's such an amazingly powerful message, the power to ask. And it kind of goes back into your first point, the isolation. When people are afraid to ask, they end up in that point of feeling isolated. And sometimes we're afraid to ask. Sometimes we're afraid to be vulnerable. And so what's your advice to people on getting over that fear and not being afraid to ask?
Right. Well, there's a couple things. At the beginning of this, I talked about your story, right? And how you're the only one that has it. And it's 100% true. And that I'll never know what it's like to walk in your shoes in your life and go through what you went through, 100%. But I do know the feelings. And that's where we connect. We all felt alone at times. We all felt like we were failures at times, even though we don't fail. Our systems, our actions fail, right? We've all felt these things. We all felt alone. We all felt heartbreak, right? We've all experienced this. So we can connect on the feeling of our lives, right? And that's great storytelling, right? It's not what you see up here, because up here is your own thing. But underneath the surface, how we make someone follow through in a story is by connecting them to the feeling in which we were going through at the moments, right? So no, you're not alone on the feeling part. We've all felt that, right? And here's the great part too. We've gotten through it, right? We've grown through it. And one of the biggest things I got from my life that I want everyone to know from theirs is the hardest times lead to the greatest things, right? The greatest moments. If I didn't have, I was talking about this yesterday with someone, if I didn't have this story of losing my brother to suicide, or losing one of my best friends to suicide, losing multiple friends to self-injurious behavior, right? Losing friends to the system of crime and to what happens, how fragile life is, right? And losing my pops early. If I didn't have this life, that someone would be like, man, I'm so sorry that happened. I wouldn't be the person I am right now. So I have to say thank you, even though some of those times were the toughest times, and they straight broke me and broke my heart and left me like, life hit me so hard I never thought I'd get up. And at times I didn't know if I wanted to. But that was exactly what had to happen to forge me into this person that cares the way I do, that loves the way I do. And now I love me. So at the same time as I used to say, why me? Now I have to say, thank you for me. Because it happened for me.
You know, that is so powerful. And you said something that I don't hear a lot of people say, and I especially don't hear a lot of men say. And you know, looking at you with your beard and stuff, I mean, you definitely, you know, own, you know, your masculine traits. But you said, I love me. How did you come to that point where you were able to just say that, like, very comfortable with loving yourself? It's something most people can't do.
It was extremely hard, right? It is extremely hard. But it goes back to that ownership part. Like, I own every aspect of my life. I was the guy that caused a lot of trouble. I was, right? Like, I was the guy that gave my parents sleepless nights. I was, right? I was the guy that some consider still a wild card, right? I come in with the backwards hat and the t-shirt and you're like, oh no, what is this guy about to do, right? But I own me. I take complete ownership of myself, right? Jocko Willink, right? With his book, Complete Ownership. It's extreme ownership, right? And it's extreme ownership. I just own me. So I know I'm not going to be perfect because perfect doesn't get you here. Look at me. I'm far from perfect. I got like 7 teeth left. My beard's kind of straggly, right? I got long hair, kind of, right? I'm far from perfect, but I'm exactly what I have to be for me. To be able to be this thing that I love, to be able to do things that I love, serve people the way I love, right? And experience the community in which I love, the Unleashed, right? So it took a long time and it was very hard, but I say it because I completely own everything about me. And that takes a lot of strength, a lot of courage to do that because you face everything you did, all the good and bad.
That's where I think your book is powerful, is because you have the ability to go from the start to the finish. And like you said, you write your story from it. Mm-hmm. And then you have to own that story, the good, the bad, the mistakes, the successes, those things that, like you said, you know, maybe the perceptions of failures. And you touched on such an important concept. Is so often we're maintaining that facade. We're maintaining that, look, my life is perfect. Look, my life is great. When really, you know, underneath it's that little duck paddling and we're struggling. And you know, how do you get to the point like where you're willing to be vulnerable and share like, hey, I am struggling?
Because that's the only place that moves the rock, right? It's funny. I speak a lot into business world because I'm very involved in business, and everyone comes on.
You
and
look like a businessman.
Thank you. Right, I'm the most businessman you've ever seen, and most people come on and they speak about all the money they made or all the big businesses they created, right? And the first thing I always say is like, I've lost 6 figures multiple times. I lost 5 figures multiple times. Right? I have failed, right? Like I have devastatedly crushed businesses, right? Decisions I have made has cost us buku dollars, right? I had enough money to buy Miami and piss it away so fast, like Jimmy Buffett, all right? And the idea is because we have to own those parts, right? Because our vulnerability is what makes us human, right? And we're all human and we just want permission to be it. So what I do is I give everyone around me permission to be human because I'm going to be human first. So I'm going to take that bullet first for everyone and be vulnerable, be very honest in the space, be very me, to give you the space to be very you in this space because that's what I want. And I feel like if we don't get there, we don't make progress. All progress is made, one, by the persistent man or woman, right? And by the one that's willing to be the most real in the space in which they're in. That's the 2 ways progress are made. And I love progress. So if I'm not it, then I'm a hypocrite. And I try not to be that. You can call me many things, but I try not to be
that. Michael, from everything I know about you, I do want to give a shout out to Michelle Mraz, who connected us and is just such an amazing woman.
Yes.
And, you know, just someone who, once you have her light in your life, it can change you. So a little shout out to Michelle who connected us. But I mean, everything about you is just so genuine, just so pure. You know, you're not coming in here pretentious. You're coming in with who you are. And it's really wonderful to have that kind of light into my day, into the day of the viewers. We are coming towards the end of our segment. What have I not asked you about that you wanted to discuss today?
This question can go a lot of ways. Right? It's you know what's funny is when everybody says say something about you that you don't know, I always go to I have a lopsided butt.
And thank you for sharing that.
Right? You're welcome. You
I didn't see that one coming.
You're welcome. I throw curveballs, right? I was young and a German Shepherd bit my butt. And
okay,
literally,
crazy. I actually was bitten by a German Shepherd in the butt as well.
What?
Oh my god!
Look at this. All because I said it. Now we're honest.
And I was in the emergency room, and all these doctors are like because it was the main doctor with like the student doctors, and I mean I'm like a 15-year-old girl, and they're like doing the little because it was puncture wounds, so they can't stitch you, and you're probably aware of this.
Oh, it took a chunk out of mine.
Okay, what is the odds that we would share this experience?
Right.
And then I'm sharing this with everybody out there. Yes, everyone, I can show you the marks. So when people say that they're going to chew your butt, I'm like, no, I've already had that, and it's cool.
Yeah, you're going to get your ass chewed. I'm like, already happened.
See, oversharing with the world.
That's what I'm about. Be real in the space. You ask something.
And Michael, you bring this out in people. You bring out the joy. You bring out the laughter. You bring out things that we're trying to hide that is bringing forward. And I think that's such an important point. Is that we have these things. We have these things going below the surface. But if we admit to it, if we own it, even if it's only telling our stories to ourselves, there's power in that.
All right. 100%. And look at that moment. And now that one, people are going to laugh at that moment. Also, people are going to talk about the little things that happen to them that they really don't talk about much.
Right.
And but it's part of them. It's part of their story, and you have a story with it. And that's awesome. And they have the student doctors in there helping you. That's hilarious. But it's part of us, and life will give us enough reasons to be serious. We can find reasons to laugh.
No, and like I said, I mean, this is Inauguration Day in the United States. I know a lot of people tensions are high, and so if people are able to either watch this live now or watch the recording and get to the point where we're sharing German Shepherds biting off your tail, literally, what a better way to just kind of enjoy your day, right?
All right. That's all what you look for, right? It's like I just keep with my daughter today. I'm very lucky. My mom's still around, and I have a daughter, right? That's like 17 going on 30, I feel like. And she and I get to see both of them see a woman vice president, right? And that's an awesome moment, right? Like no matter what side we were on, no matter what we thought about, no matter what color you represented with, it's a moment that women will have for all time now. And two closest people to me are women, right? So it's an awesome moment to say, see, like you can do anything. You just got to be willing to put it in, but you can do anything.
Thank you so much, Michael. You have just given me so much joy. I appreciate you. I appreciate what you're doing. If you want to reach out to Michael, all of his contact information is on that website, and he is just a phenomenal person. And thank you so much for giving me this time.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm honored and pleasure. It's been awesome hanging out with you. I love everything you're about. I love that you're willing to do this. It takes real strength to do this for 12 hours straight and 24 different authors paying the butts like us.
Keep checking out the rest of the shows as we go through the day, and thank you for your time.